Hi, Michelle. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to have you on today. So, if you want to start, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to first say thanks for having me. I am excited to be here. I am a women's exercise specialist. I've been around fitness and exercise my whole life. Grew up playing sports, played volleyball in college, and then I got into training. Um, and since then, it's been a journey. One learning new things, adapting how I work with women, and I primarily work with women now. So right now in my business, my focus is to really help women thrive in each season that they encounter. And that's usually by learning how to move and eat with what their bodies are telling them. So often we are told to neglect our bodies in the name of health. And so, part of this is the journey to helping women find wholeness and then find joy in what they're doing. So we're kind of just pulling back the curtains and just helping them find freedom. So that's a bit about me and what I'm doing.
I love that because I feel like so many fitness things are like one size fits all, and it's not that way. Everybody is different. What works for one person is not going to work for somebody else. So, I love that you take into account what your clients' bodies are feeling and going through.
Thank you.
So, we're going to talk about my favorite thing, our menstrual cycle. So, anybody who follows me knows that I run like my whole business and life off my menstrual cycle. So, I was really excited to connect with you and know that you help your clients do that. So, since you help a lot of women work with their menstrual cycle to improve their health, can you give us a little more detail of how our cycles can work to help us?
For sure. First and foremost, I've always growing up, I grew up with brothers. Okay. So my dad was a primary parent around. So I grew up a little background, learning to hide who I was as a woman, right? I grew up with boys. So like, don't show that you're on a cycle, hide all that. Um,
Yes.
and so for me, really coming into working with my own cycle was so powerful and freeing. It really just helped me to step into who I was created to be, right? How my body actually works. And for a lot of us as women, um, that is a huge component of learning to see how our cycles can actually help us and not be a hindrance. Um, Especially now as women in the workforce, we are just go 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 go, right? And it helps when we're able to say, you know what, like I'm allowed to slow down, I'm allowed to take a step back, especially when my body needs some extra rest. So just by those types of things, learning how our cycles can actually work with us, we're able to increase our energy. We're able to really embrace our bodies and feel good in every season. And when we get into talking a little bit about balancing hormones, then we can actually go into our menstrual cycle without a lot of PMS. We can actually just kind of glide in and slow down and then come back out, and it's just almost mind blowing to think about, right? Wow, I don't have to be in a lot of pain. I don't have to feel stressed that I'm pushing my body, even though all I want to do is just take an hour nap, right? Those types of things, so much freedom when we really learn about how our cycles can work with us.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I think growing up, I was never taught any of this. I was taught cramps are normal. And when you get your period, yeah, you just don't tell anybody. You just try to hide it. I remember sneaking like pads and tampons up the sleeve of my shirt so that nobody would see. So yeah, so I love that this is coming out now and that hopefully future generations of women will embrace their period and not see it as a nuisance as we were taught when we were younger. So
Exactly.
let's talk yeah. So let's talk about productivity and your cycle. How can you be more productive by using your cycle with whether it's with your health, your business, whatever you want to go into?
Well, we can talk about this in two different things, right? One with our health, and this could even go into that last question, right? Of how our cycles can work with us. But when we talk about health wise, first and foremost, the majority of the research done, these health studies done on diets and exercise are all done, if they are done on a woman, which is already very low percentage to begin with, they're all done in the follicular stage. So that means that there is very little research done in the second half of our cycle, which let me like break that down, right? So after ovulation, there is very little research on how diets and exercise can actually work in that half of our cycle. So a lot of times when we think about productivity towards our goals, and let's say a lot of people come to me and they're in a calorie deficit, and they're trying to have that calorie deficit in that second half of their cycle, most times you're actually doing more harm than good. Your body needs more calories, point blank, in that second half of the cycle, because your body is preparing in case there is a baby. And so by learning how to work with that, you're actually going to progress your goals faster, in that sense. And also learning that you don't need to pound your body in the second half of your cycle. Yes, like if you like lifting weights, absolutely go lift weights, just increase your recovery time. Or some of you may like to actually just slow it down. You're not going to most likely PR, or have those personal records or personal best in the second half of your cycle. So if you're runners or weightlifters, whatever it looks like for you, you're going to be more focused on recovery, on stability. And by learning how to manipulate that, you can actually just keep progressing even faster than if you're trying to force it. So productivity in the health phase, right? But productivity, as far as work and business, the four types of phases I like to talk about really help us also come back into alignment with what our body's naturally doing. So we have like the menstrual phase where we slow it down, we can easily reflect. And a lot of times that's when our hormones are, we're more likely to say things that we have less of a guard up. We're overly feeling, which we've always thought was a bad thing, right? But a lot of times that's when we actually can recognize what we're actually thinking. And yes, granted, sometimes it goes a little too far and you know your body, but that's a good time to actually say, you know what, I really don't like this. And I've just been kind of trying to deal with it for the rest of my cycle. And now you can actually reflect on what you're actually doing. With your business, you can look back and say what was working, what was not. And then coming into that follicular stage, right after your period ends, you start to dream and create, and new life comes, right? Your body is expectant, and it's usually when you feel the best. So this is a great time to dream and create. Going into ovulation, that's hormonally wise when you are most social. Your body's naturally made that way. That's a great time for collaborations, to be out, to be networking, especially for someone who's like introverted like me. I definitely get into my menstrual phase and I'm just like, no, I don't really want to talk to anyone. I'm good. So, learning how to schedule is going to be crucial with that. And then we have the luteal phase where you're wrapping up things. You're very high in progesterone. Estrogen as well is starting to drop off. And so you're really task oriented. You're getting things done. A lot of times, if you actually look back at your month, if your hormones are balanced, you'll be able to see this naturally happening. You just get like a second wind and you're like, okay, I'm going to do everything in the house. I'm like, wow. And then like you try to do that in the follicular stage and it's not happening and you get frustrated. But now tuning in, you can actually understand what your body's doing so you can work with it.
That is amazing. I actually haven't heard that you need more calories in your luteal and menstrual phase, which is interesting because we're always told calories are bad and upping your calories is shouldn't be doing that. But yeah, I really like that. And just, yeah, tracking and adjusting to your own body, because even though we all have a cycle and there's 4 phases for everybody, it's still going to be different. So just tracking your mood through each phase is super helpful. I know you said freeing, and that's exactly how it felt when I discovered that too. It was like so freeing.
It is definitely, and this is just a framework, right? And like I said, there are some of us who are living with hormonal imbalances that I do work with, but you can also work on by incorporating even just a few vegetables, right? There are certain types of vegetables that increase estrogen or decrease estrogen, and or help your body, process toxins out more fully. And so just simple steps. It's not something that you have to completely overhaul in one day, but learning that, hey, I do need to have more calories in the second phase of your cycle can actually keep you from binging on like sugars or sweets, because as your body's naturally like, hey, I need more bread, need more sweets, not getting enough calories because that's glucose, right? So that's the energy your body needs. So just learning how to those simple cues can really set you up to be completely productive. Um,
Yes, definitely. So, as most of my listeners are hold on. As most of my listeners are podcasters, how would you suggest they can get started using their cycle to like keep up with their podcast or be more productive with their podcast?
the first thing I would say is to just take steps to learn your own body. There are, when we talk about like cycles, right? We as women we have that monthly cycle, but we also have a daily cycle. So a lot of things I talk about is in the morning, your cortisol should be spiking. And so you wake up, you're alert, and then it starts to drop off, and our natural rhythm starts to go for the day. So if you know that you're waking up and you're completely depleted, you're very hard to get out of bed. And I'm not talking like if you're a morning person, right? Like you actually up when you normally your body likes to get up, and you're still having a hard time, then that's something to look at. Otherwise, you can start to schedule in, even on a daily basis, when you work best, right? And then you can start to adjust this to the monthly cycle of reflection, dreaming, content creation, and then videoing them all in a batch if that's something that you do, and then you're going to shore up at the end, into that luteal phase of making sure you have all your covers done, or you're done with your editing, and so that way you can almost make them to where you batch, so that way you're working with that natural cycle. And then you can say on a daily, okay, you know what, these are the times I work best. In the mornings, I actually think better. In midday, maybe I get a little weary, so I can do some of the rote task of editing. It doesn't take a lot of thought, thinking up and creation. And that way you can, on both ends, daily and monthly, really work towards staying productive with your podcast.
Mhm. Yeah, that's how I kind of knew I was getting sick last week because I'm definitely a morning person. My alarm goes off once and I get out of bed. Like I don't even like lay there or anything. But this past week I was not ready to move at all. So yeah, I was kind of just listening to my body. I'm like, something's going on, and just like trying to see what that is. So I think it's the same with your cycle. If you realize, why am I not as energetic as I normally am this time? Like something's going on. Maybe I should listen to my body, see what it needs.
Yes, I think that's a great example too of you've taken the time to learn your body. And this is not something that's going to happen overnight. For some of us, it's going to take a bit of time. But you can start just by tuning in. You know what? I feel this way during this phase of my cycle. This is starts to become a baseline, and that way, when something happens, like it did for you last week, where you didn't feel good, now it's a little red flag. Okay, something's going.
Definitely. Yeah. I've been learning this for like 3 years. So yeah, it did not happen overnight. It's taken me quite a while. So I also know that you are a big believer in mindset being very important with everything, your health especially. So how do you help your clients with their mindset?
This comes down to the individual person, right? I like to ask the question why a lot, because helps us to question what we're saying to ourselves. And a lot of times, especially working in the health and fitness industry, that why comes down to, will you still be loved and will you still be worthy? If when you lose this weight, right? Like, will that actually fulfill that need for you? And we kind of get down to the bottom level of these truths, which you can feel loved and accepted and worthy now, right? So that's the whole point of asking those questions. But even with this mindset of getting things done, right? So since we've been talking about working with our cycle, yeah, we're learning how to actually like adjust and saying, you know what, I don't need to go 100%. My 100% is going to look different every day because my hormones are literally different every day of the week. Like my hormones yesterday, and they're not going to be the same tomorrow. So to expect, when we talk about like mindset motivation, to expect the same level of motivation every day is unrealistic. So then we look at, okay, what actually can help your body continue to move forward? And by switching that, we're able to bring freedom into it, to say, you know what, my body today needs to roll out and stretch. My body today needs to walk. And we set up those kind of parameters to say, okay, how am I actually doing mentally? Like, do I think that I will still be loved more when I reach my goal? What can I work through at this point to help me? And these are just examples, right? But this can go for any of us. Why do we try to achieve or be the best at something? Are we actually trying to fulfill our worth through that? And hopefully this answers your question. Mindset, but it does come down to the individual of just starting with, well, why do you think that way? Why? And I would encourage all of you to ask yourself and sit with it. Why do I actually think this? Where does it come from in my past? Has it been past hurts? Has it been past trauma? And then how do we take steps to walk from that now?
Mhm. Yeah, definitely asking the deeper questions, or just keep going down another layer of why, why. And journaling really helps. I know I've done that with journaling, because once I start writing, just things that I didn't even know I was thinking come out on the paper. And I'm like, oh, really? So yeah, I think that's really good.
Huge journaling. And especially even now, I have clients, I send out little post-it notes, and I'm like, let's write down one truth, one win, and let's just put it up, because sometimes our emotions tell us one thing because we're working through like the past hurts and the past pain, and that's our nervous system, right? Our nervous system is based on predictability. The brain needs predictability. So a lot of times when we get into an uncertain situation, it's automatically going to feed us back those lies naturally. That's literally how the brain is wired. So by reminding ourselves of the truth of what we know for a fact, then we can actually start to break that rewiring and change actually how we think. So
Definitely. Yes. So this is a little fun section I like to do with all my guests, and just a few different questions. So what is your favorite mindset book?
so I have a book. It's actually, I have it with me. It's called Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. This book was revolutionary for me. And it literally talks about what the title is: boundaries, when to say yes, when to say no, and to take control of your life. And that's, as far as mindset, it really does help you kind of dig deeper into why am I more of a people pleaser? Why am I, where does that stem from in my life? So you can actually start to take back that power and start to actually set boundaries and model boundaries for children.
Oh, I need to add that to my list. Boundaries was very hard when I first started my business, but as I've been going, I've been learning to set a little bit more each time.
It's really great, and that works right with your cycle too. So I think for you, this is full circle kind of thing, right? But yeah, for your podcasters out there, that this could be definitely something that can revolutionize their business as well.
Awesome. I will make sure to link that in the show notes. Um, so do you have an affirmation that you like that helps you out, or?
Um, the big one for me, I think, is that I am loved and I'm worthy more than what I do or what I can achieve. So those kind of play back. But
Yes.
that's for me.
Yes. I love those. And what is your favorite podcast? Or one of them? Because I know we all probably have like a long list that we're listening to.
Yeah. So I think the one that's been coming to mind lately it's called Stop Chasing Pain. And I actually did my lymphatic certification through him. Um, but he goes into the deeper side of health, and really talks. It's really freeing when you stop thinking about calories as calories. I don't coach calories, so um, it is really freeing of how the body is working and how like lymphatics work, how it plays with the brain. It's so cool. So for me, that's definitely a fun one to tune
Well, thank you so much for being on. Can you please let the listeners know how they can connect with you, especially if they want to better their health, connect more with their cycle? I know a lot of people probably do want that. I know I do. So,
Absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram, Creation Fitness, with the 3 instead of an E for creation. And you can also email me creation.fitness at gmail.com. I'm on Facebook. If you have Facebook, I have a Facebook group called Real Moms New Normal, where we just dive in about how to realistically make this work and, journey towards our health. So those are some ways that you can reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to you, even if it's just a consult. I'd love to just help you figure out what's next for you.
awesome. And again, all those will be in the show notes. So go connect with Michelle. And thank you again for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jillian.